you, myself, and others that exposed his frauds on the Internet. And we're not talking about little things, folks. Back in April 2003, both Stu Webb and Barbara Hartwell put out, notices on the Internet that they had filed a court case against George Bush, that they were going to take him to court. Well, my wife happened to be a clerk up in Tippecanoe County and suggested the very simple act of calling the court in Colorado and asking for a case number. Folks, there was no case ever filed. They lied, and they were soliciting money for it. And they were soliciting money for it on John Statmiller's show on GCN, and I called and told Statmiller that and Ted Anderson, and they didn't want to hear about it. That's called fraud, folks. So anyway, they were caught dead to rights, and of course anytime you'd nail them on something, they would just yell and scream and threaten more.
Filed a lawsuit. They filed a restraining lawsuit against us all as well, didn't he?
Well, Stewie put out a this bogus restraining order on the Internet, with your name, my name, and a whole bunch of other people's that were talking about him.
And there's no such thing as an Internet restraining order.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But some people are gullible enough to buy that, especially if it looks legalese. But it was BS. Again, I had relations with somebody who knew something about legalese. This guy is a total fraud. The guy couldn't even spell in half his emails.
Yeah, wasn't Barbara Hartwell editing his emails?
Many of the emails she wrote for him, and he would simply forward on. And then when he needed some backup, for example, she wrote the letter from Agent John, Federal Agent John. Barbara Hartwell claims to be a CIA MK-Ultra victim, and yet attacked Fritz Springmeier, who had very good information on Project Monarch and MK-Ultra, and again admitted that she was part of the Walker family, as in Herbert Walker Bush. But anyway, so this banter went back and forth on the Internet for a long time, threats and, threats to sue me, threats to put me in jail and you, and then, of course, they would slander us in any way they could. Stewie finally come up and said that I'm a mind-controlled DCF, Domestic Contact Services, or some horse hockey like that. Folks, I've been putting out information on mind control and Fritz Springmeier's material for years. I warned people on the Internet shortly after the movie The Matrix came out that it contained a lot of MK-Ultra triggers, the very first one, and that we were likely to see staged shootings here in the country. Shortly after that, we got Columbine. It takes a lot of research that Fritz Springmeier did to expose this. Coupling that, you have Ted Gunderson, who Stu Webb and Hartwell attacked viciously. I don't know what to make of Gunderson, but I'll say this. He's put out some accurate information about the CIA and the finders and how they kidnap kids for the CIA MK-Ultra programs.
Yeah.
And they attack him over these things. And yet they want to pretend that they are the real whistleblowers and that they're against Bush, too. Well, folks, you got to understand who's really running the show here. It's Daddy Bush and Dick Cheney. Junior's the idiot chimp in the driver's seat, snorting cocaine and driving us off the edge of the cliff. His leash is held by Daddy and Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
And if you go to Kathy O'Brien's website, which is www.trance-formation.com, this is material that was written long ago about Cheney and Daddy Bush, the CIA MK-Ultra program, and how she was, attacked by Cheney and Bush, sexually molested, and her daughter, 7 or 8 year old Kelly O'Brien, was also molested by these pedophile freaks. This is part of the perks of the CIA program. They think they can do anything to anybody. There are excerpts from the book there. It's a very graphic book, and there's a lot of people that don't want to hear these things, or their mind will blank out. They can't believe that a good little Christian like Bush would do these things. Folks, I'm sure you've heard this. I mean, he's a Satanist in Skull and Bones at Yale.
Yeah.
They're both Satanists in Skull and Bones. Carrie's a Satanist in Skull and Bones. They've just hired another skull and bones person to supposedly oversee this federal prosecutor Fitzgerald, that the information that's supposedly come out wanted to do indictments, and legally I don't see how they can do indictments of Bush and Cheney. The technical procedure is impeachment, conviction, and then
I heard that they can't impeach him because he's not a legal president. I heard there's a loophole there.
There's all kind of loopholes.
So even if they had enough information and they had enough people that were willing to talk that they could impeach him, they can't because he's not a legally sitting president.
Here's a well, I do want to play this for people. This is a few minutes of Stu Webb ranting here, and I just want you to hear what this guy sounds like. It's important to hear these things so that you know that I'm not making these things up. And then let's see what Alex's reaction is, and you judge for yourself, whether Alex is a good guy or not. Okay, here's Stu attacking Nancy, Cornkey, myself, you, and a few others. I might have to adjust the volume, but let me know how this sounds here. Okay, here we go.
Ted Gunderson, Tom Gall, Brendan Nigri, Tim White, Larry Lawson, Doug Millar, Ken Adante, Sherry Schreiner, John Borchers, Nancy Cornick, Virginia McCullough, and Pam Schubert. These are the ones that are hooked up with Ted Gunderson. Every time that they start coming out of the woodwork, you can tell, because, believe me, I've been a target of every one of you, okay? I know what I'm talking about. And I've got the list already in the evidence. That Gunderson's on the payroll of DCS, Nigri's on the payroll of DCS, Tim White's on the payroll of FBI Denver, Larry Lawson, he's a mind control, DCS. Doug Millar's FBI payroll, San Francisco, Ken Adante, I don't know whose payroll yet he's on, I just know he's writing a lot of Ted Gunderson's spin stories, and Sherry Schreiner along with him. Now, all of a sudden, we got talk show hosts Don Borchers, Nancy Cornick, Virginia McCullough, a reporter, all jumping in the bandwagon, being spin doctors for him, and I find that kind of ironic. It tells me a lot. And I'll tell you, I haven't been happy in the past with Nancy Cornick, because Nancy set me up on a show that I was supposed to be a guest, and then made it look like I was collar in for credibility purposes to her show, and gave me 10 minutes, and I didn't appreciate what she had done. And that was over a year and a half ago, and I said I'd never do another show with the woman because she wasn't credible. So anyway, I'll leave it as that.
Did that come through pretty clear?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay.
What's interesting is that this was in 2003.
Yeah, this...
and the first time I'd ever even talked to Ted Gunderson was 2004. He was going to come on the show, I think, on January of this year.
Yeah, this happened shortly in November 2003, when we got kicked off of Genesis.
He's always one of those people that's always reaching for something.
Well, and he's making all this crap up. Ask him to verify and prove any of it.
And he says, I have proof. Well, let's see it.
Yeah,
how do you prove something there's nothing to prove on?
He sounds good, etc. Okay, so you kind of got a flavor for Stu Webb. He's making all this crap up. Okay, what I did was I knew that this flake was coming on GCN with Barbara Hartwell. The last clip that you heard was from November 2003. It was done shortly after our show moved from GCN to Truth Radio because we were kicked off. Clay Douglas hosted Nancy Cornkey and myself, and, at that time, a guy by the name of Jeremy Floyd was there with Stu Webb, who had also been booted off of Genesis. These are some very interesting events, folks. You've got to question what happened at Genesis. John Statmiller moved Stu Webb from his show to Jeremy Floyd's show at Genesis. And it was on Jeremy Floyd's show that I knew Barbara